In our last conversation, we talked about impostor syndrome. We looked at why intelligent people often feel like frauds, and we explored the reverse Dunning-Kruger effect, the paradox where knowing more makes you doubt yourself more. But for some of you, a more visceral problem emerged. What if the issue isn't just internal doubt? What if your body physically rejects praise? Someone says, "You did an amazing job on that presentation," and your whole body tenses up. Your heart rate spikes. You immediately deflect. "Oh, it was nothing," or "I just got lucky," or "anyone could have done it." You are not being humble. You are in pain. This is the compliment rejection response, and it can feel like your kindness and self-awareness. Are you working against yourself? This is what psychologists call praise dysphoria, the inability to emotionally absorb positive feedback. It is perfectly captured in this phrase. Every compliment feels like a lie I have to correct. Society has labels for you, too. If you deflect, they call you falsely modest or fishing for more compliments. If you try to just say thank you, it feels like you are lying, like you are deceiving people into thinking you are better than you are. And the anxiety that comes with this is crushing. It feels like a no-win situation. Accept the praise and feel like a fraud. Reject it and seem ungrateful. Today, we are going to dismantle that anxiety. We will look at the psychology of self-concept and offer a path for those of us whose brains were wired to reject evidence of our own competence. First, we need to understand why the standard advice fails you completely. For decades, the self-help world has offered one solution. Just say thank you. Practice gratitude. Accept compliments gracefully. This treats compliments like a social transaction, almost like a tennis ball being tossed to you. Just catch it. Say thanks. Move on. Psychologists call this the behavioral model of self-esteem. It assumes the problem is just a habit that you can reprogram with repetition. But that is not how your brain works, is it? Here is what they are missing. A compliment is not just information. It is a mirror. And when someone holds up a mirror that shows you as competent, valuable, worthy of praise, your brain runs it through a filter. That filter is your core self-concept, the deep blueprint of who you believe you are. For some people, the blueprint was built with unconditional acceptance. Their childhood taught them, you are valuable because you exist. But for many of us, especially high achievers, the blueprint was built differently. It was built with conditional approval. You learned early. You are valuable when you perform. You are lovable when you achieve. You are safe when you are perfect. So what happens when someone compliments you? Their words conflict with your deepest programming. Now, to be clear, we absolutely need people who can accept compliments easily. Their healthy self-esteem is real and valuable. The problem is not that their path is wrong. The problem is when it is treated as the only path. When that single standard is used to measure everyone, it leaves people like you feeling broken, when your brain is simply protecting an old wound. To heal your relationship with praise, you have to stop thinking in terms of modesty versus arrogance, and start thinking in terms of self-concept alignment. There are two fundamental models. The threat-based self-concept. This is built on the belief that you must constantly prove your worth. Any evidence to the contrary feels dangerous. A compliment is not a gift. It is a debt you now owe. It raises expectations that you are terrified you cannot meet. Then there is the evidence-based self-concept. This is built on the belief that you are learning who you are through experience. A compliment is not a threat. It is data. One piece of information among many. Think of it like this. Imagine someone compliments your strategic thinking at work. If you have a threat-based self-concept, your internal response is, they do not know the real me. I just got lucky this time. Now they expect this level forever, and I will fail them. But if you are building an evidence-based self-concept, your internal response becomes, interesting. My preparation paid off. This suggests I am developing strength in this area. I can learn from what worked. Suddenly, You are not a fraud pretending to be competent. You become a person gathering evidence of your actual capabilities. That shift changes everything. The psychological tool that creates this difference is called the cognitive dissonance filter. Here is how it works. Your brain is not designed to hold contradictory beliefs. It creates too much neurological stress. So when information comes in that conflicts with your core self-concept, your brain has two choices: update the self-concept or reject the information. For most people with praise dysphoria, updating the self-concept feels dangerous because that blueprint was built during childhood, when survival depended on reading your caregivers correctly. So instead, your brain rejects the compliment. It finds reasons the praise is not valid. A manager says your work is exceptional. Your brain says, they are just being nice. A colleague says you are the smartest person they know. Your brain says, they have not met very many people. A partner says you are beautiful. Your brain says, the lighting is good today. This is not modesty. This is your cognitive architecture, protecting a self-concept built when you learned love is conditional, safety is earned, and being seen as too much is dangerous. That filter was built with every time you brought home a B+ and saw disappointment. Every time you succeeded and heard, but you could do better. Every time you failed, and the warmth disappeared. Those moments became the blueprints. And now your brain uses them to interpret every piece of new information, including praise. So how do you actually rebuild this? It requires a completely different strategy. The first is what I call the compliment evidence journal. You cannot just force yourself to believe compliments. That just creates internal warfare. One part of you is trying to override another. Instead, you need to lower the stakes dramatically. Here is the secret. You are not trying to believe the compliment. You are just trying to record it. When someone gives you praise, you do not have to accept it. You do not have to believe it. You just have to write it down. Create a simple document. It could be on your phone. It could be a notebook. Title it, Evidence I Am Collecting. Every time someone compliments you, write down 3 things. What they said exactly. The context of what you did. Their credibility as an observer. What is it? No pressure to believe it. You are just building a data set. Do this for 60 to 90 days. Here is what happens. After collecting 20 or 30 compliments, patterns emerge. You start to see the same strengths mentioned repeatedly by different people in different contexts who have no reason to coordinate their lies. This is not about reaching perfection. This is about reaching the 80% threshold, where you have enough evidence that your brain can no longer dismiss it all as a coincidence. This is not fake confidence. This is not toxic positivity. This is strategic evidence gathering. You are deliberately choosing to treat your life like a scientist, collecting data on who you actually are. This requires a second strategy. Many people who struggle with compliments have what I call inverted self-awareness. You can see everyone else clearly, but yourself is a blind spot. The writer David Foster Wallace struggled with this profoundly. He could create the most psychologically precise characters in literature, but he could not see his own brilliance. He thought he was a fraud until the day he died. Here is the reframe you need. Your inability to see yourself is not a flaw in your perception. It is a feature of your position. You are inside the experience. Everyone else is outside it. This is why you need to practice the third-person perspective. When you receive a compliment, imagine your best friend received the same praise, for the same work, in the same context. Would you think they were a fraud? Would you dismiss it as luck? Or would you think, yeah, that makes sense, they are skilled? That gap between how you see others and how you see yourself is not accurate. It is the scar tissue of your childhood. Recognizing this does not fix it immediately, but it gives you access to a different resource. The same generosity you extend to everyone else. The final piece is addressing the deeper challenge. Because let's be honest, praise dysphoria is not just about individual compliments. It is about a core belief system that runs in the background of your entire life. Your self-concept is like the operating system of your identity. Trying to change it one compliment at a time is like editing the OS while the computer is running. It is slow, it is exhausting, and it feels impossible. This is why you need what I call a belief audit system. The neuropsychologist Donald Hebb had a famous principle. Neurons that fire together wire together. Your brain built your self-concept through repetition. The same thoughts, triggered by the same situations, creating the same emotional responses, for years or decades. To change it, you need to build new neural pathways with the same level of intention. Here is how. The psychiatrist David Burns developed a technique called the daily mood log. In his research with thousands of patients, he found that people who tracked their cognitive distortions in writing improved their self-concept at twice the rate of those who just tried to think differently. You can use this same framework. Set up a simple system. I recommend a tool like Notion or a Google Doc. Create 3 columns. Column 1, the automatic thought. What your brain says when you receive praise. They do not really mean it. They will realize I am a fraud soon. I do not deserve this. Column 2, the cognitive distortion. Name the thinking error. Is it mind reading assuming you know what they really think? Is it discounting the positive filtering out evidence that contradicts your belief? Is it emotional reasoning, using your feeling of fraudulence as proof that you are a fraud? Column 3, the alternative evidence. What would you say to a friend experiencing this? What objective evidence contradicts the automatic thought? Do this every single time you deflect a compliment. For 90 days. Here is what this does. It creates conscious awareness of an unconscious pattern, and that awareness is the first step toward choice. Over time, the automatic thoughts lose their grip, not because you are forcing positivity, but because you are debugging the operating system. The long-term payoff is this. You stop living in constant fear that people will find out who you really are, because you have built a self-concept based on evidence, not on the wounded conclusions of a child who was doing their best to survive. So, let's put this all together. You are not broken because you cannot accept compliments. You are not arrogant for struggling with praise. You are someone whose brain built a self-concept under conditions of conditional love. This path will not be easy, and rewiring decades of programming takes time. But just having a framework for your struggle brings relief. The shame begins to lift. The confusion starts to clear, replaced by a quiet understanding. Start your compliment evidence journal. Collect the data without pressure to believe it. Practice the third-person perspective. Extend to yourself the generosity you give others. And run your belief audit system. Debug the old operating system, one thought at a time. You were never meant to just be confident. You were meant to build a self-concept rooted in evidence, not in the survival strategies of your past. And that is the work of a lifetime. But it is also the work that sets you free. And to help you get started on this, I have created a new free resource for you, called the Compliment Acceptance Toolkit. It has the exact templates for your evidence journal, the framework for identifying cognitive distortions, and a guided exercise for the third-person perspective. You can download it using the link in the description. Now, if you found yourself listening to this and thinking, my problem is not that I reject compliments. My problem is that I feel like a fraud even when no one is praising me. That is perfectly okay. That just means you are dealing with a deeper layer of imposter syndrome. I would recommend you watch our previous video on the reverse Dunning-Kruger effect. It will give you the framework for understanding why intelligent people feel the most doubt. You can click on it right here. Thanks for watching. I hope this gives you a new lens for understanding why praise feels so complicated and a practical path toward actually letting it in. I will see you in the next one.